It is April 21st, 2022. We're here at the Pyle Center in Tempe. I'm Michelle Hirsch with Berdetta Hodge. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We like to start out with the easy questions, which is when and where were you born?
I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, September 3rd, 1972.
And what brought you to Tempe?
My dad was in the military, so I've been in Tempe since I was 4.5 years old.
And so can you tell us some of the schools that you went to in Tempe?
Yes, I went to Nevitt Elementary, Gillen Middle School. Well, actually, it was Gillen Junior High. I was one of the last classes to get the junior high label. And then I went to Tempe High School, and then I went to ASU. So all around Tempe.
And what are some of the neighborhoods that you lived in, like the houses that you lived in? What do you recall the neighborhoods or?
I was Preston Southern all the way up until I graduated.
Oh, all right.
So I lived. The funny story is I lived right 2 streets over from the Peterson house. So the Peterson house, if I looked in my backyard, I can see the Peterson house.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have some favorite teachers at your elementary school or high school that you recall, or some stories of
I
teachers?
do. I have, in elementary school, I have one teacher who wasn't directly my teacher, but she was a teacher at the school, and she was one of my favorite teachers, is Lynn Younger, who is still a big Tempean running around here and has been a part of the Tempe. She taught for 37 years before she retired, and now she still volunteers in Tempe Elementary School and still very active. The reason why I use her is because she keeps us connected. Every time something happens, she's the one who calls and makes sure that we know what's happening, what's going on. And she was very proud. She told every one of my classmates when I won each election. So she's just proud of everything that we do. So she is my elementary. My high school, I would say Harry Mitchell. I was lucky enough to have Harry Mitchell.
Oh, that's fun.
So Harry, but it's a cross between Harry and Marianne because I had both of them at the same time.
Wow.
So I had Marianne for business internship and I had Harry for government. The reason why I say Harry has probably put an impact because he's the first one who taught me about governing in politics and what you can and cannot do, and just reach for the stars and you never know where you're going to land.
Oh, interesting. What a great person to have influence you.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I was very lucky at going to Tempe High.
Were you involved in any extracurricular activities, sports, clubs, or anything in high school?
Yes, I was. I was in track. I played basketball. I played softball, and I was a pom-pom. So yes, I loved it. I had a really enriched school. I was in DECA. That's Distributing Education Clubs of America, which is marketing, and I was in student council.
And so and
Key Club.
Wow, very involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you graduated, did you go right to ASU, and what did you study there?
I went right to ASU. I did. I was one of those students who did ASU, and I did Mesa, and I did South Mountain all at the same time because I was taking courses. Any course I could take in the community college I didn't have to afford to take in the university, I did. I studied business administration with an undergrad in education. So I always knew I wanted to be in education, just didn't know if I wanted to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going into training instead, but always loved the education field.
Did you have jobs as a teenager? Did you work somewhere or
Yes, I did.
in college?
I did. So my very first job was at Kmart on Priest and Baseline before it closed down.
My mother-in-law worked there for like 25 years.
Yes.
You probably crossed paths.
Probably cross paths. That's one of my first jobs I ever had. And then I was lucky enough to work at the University Theater when it was on Broadway. So enjoy that. That's a pillar of being a Tempean, to know that University Theater movie deal, you get 2 movies for $1. And love that checkered suit I used to wear all the time. So those those are the times in Tempe that you just can't replace. So that was one of my 2 first jobs I had.
And did you work in college?
I sure did. That's when I really started into the retail. That's why I ended in retail, because I started working in college at Sears and started off in customer service, ended up going all the way through college there, becoming a trainer. And not only was I a trainer, I was a corporate trainer, so I went all over the world and trained. I really learned a trade with that. That was so fun to actually do it. And Tempe, which I don't know if a lot of people know that, but it's a big hub for retail and customer service. So down in South Tempe, it was at one time it was nothing but call centers and customer service. So got really big in that industry, became a corporate trainer, and then moved on. I didn't have a lot of jobs, but all my jobs were in Tempe. I worked at Target until I actually just completed Target. Then when I got on City Council, because I didn't want to do both, so I'm taking a sabbatical. I was a trainer there too, but I also did volunteer outreach for national Target, so enjoyed that.
So this question you'll really appreciate. We ask everyone this question, but it's how have your travels outside of Tempe and around the country influenced how you feel about Tempe?
Well, Saitel is one of the places I'll say. It's in the Philippines, and it made me realize what it means to be in a family environment. The differences, it's so almost like you eat your own. Everybody, so it's not connected. And coming back to Tempe, where almost you're gonna 6 degrees of separation. You're gonna go 6 degrees and you're gonna find someone someone who either you grew up with or someone your family grew up with, right there. So just it made me appreciate the large small city into Tempe. So it made me realize how family, we push family first in Tempe, and it just made me appreciate what I had in my own city. So I'm very fortunate to leave this state and to leave this country to realize what I came back to every night.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let's talk about your family, a little bit about your parents. Do you have siblings? And then of course we'll get to your wonderful sons.
Okay. I have two brothers. I have one brother that's a few years younger than me. My brother's name is Jerry. He's another one who's only lived and worked in Tempe too. I have another brother who is quite a bit younger than us. He's 12 years younger than us, and he was disability. He is in a wheelchair, and he made me appreciate the difference in people, and he made me appreciate that it's a saying that is so true, that you sit on the side of the road and you cry because you have no shoes until you met the man who has no feet. So he makes me realize what it means to get up every day and to be able to appreciate to walk. So I love him, and his strength helps me through every day.
Wow, that's a good reminder for all of us.
Yes.
Really.
And my mom and dad, I was raised with my parents, and my mom was more of a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked. He was first in the military. My dad's a Navy, so I was once a Navy. I'm also a military brat, but I'm very unique. My father did not want us to travel with him, so he made Tempe our home while he traveled. He wanted us to have a foundation, and when you're a military, your foundation gets kind of shooken up all the time. So he found a great place for us to live, and he wanted us to stay here. That's why I've been here. Actually, my first time I was here I was 2, and then we went away for a year, and then I came back. I was 3.5 going on 4, so I've been here ever since. So all my life I'm a Tempean.
Yeah, and then even when you were old enough to move away,
I still
you
stayed.
came back. Yeah.
I sure did.
Or stayed.
Yes, I did. I stayed.
Tell us about your sons.
Okay, I have 2 wonderful sons.
Yes, you do.
I have my oldest son is Jevin. He went to McClintock High School. He went to Conley. He went to Nevitt like I did. He went to Nevitt first, and then he went to Conley, then he went to McClintock. And then he went off to college. He went to George Washington in D.C. He got his bachelor's and his master's degree. He got the bug, bit him, and now he's into politics. He ran for Board of Supervisors last term, almost won out of 250,000 votes. He was only 403 short of being elected, and he ran against an incumbent. So
Yes.
that was something.
Yes.
He's inspirational. Now he's running for Congress in District 1. So doesn't give up. He's a fighter, and I'm very proud of him. I'm honored to be his mom. And I have a second son. My second son is Jason. He went to Nebbit for 1 year, but he decided that he wanted to go to the school in his neighborhood. So he went to Curry, Conley, and then he went to McClintock. He went and graduated. He went to NYU. He got his bachelor's and his master's degree at NYU. He decided he was going to go to law school, but we hit COVID, so he decided he wanted to wait because he wanted to do law school in person. So he decided in that 1 year's time that he would get a master's degree. So he's got his bachelor's and his master's degree, and now he is going off to law school, which he has a choice between Harvard, Yale, Stanford, University of Chicago, Duke, and Vanderbilt, and I don't know which one he's going to choose.
That just gives me goosebumps.
So you have
good reasons to be a proud mom.
I'm a very proud mom, so he's going to make that decision, and we're going to have a veiling surprise, and I'll get to know which one he decides on. So I'm excited to see which one he decides on.
And anybody that follows you on social media will see posts where your sons are very proud of you too.
Yes.
So it's a mutual feeling, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit about how things have changed in Tempe since you were growing up. Do you have some favorite restaurants or shops or stores or even places of recreation that you went to growing up?
Well, funny story is one of my favorite places is closing its doors is Big Surf. So
Yeah.
It was like one of the biggest things you did. Like you knew when summer was hitting, you were going to go to Big Surf. That was the end of the year party for you, was Big Surf. And it closed every time at Labor Day. So you just knew that the end of the summer was Big Surf. So that's one of the places that I am going to sorely miss. It's dear to my heart. So I know that things have to change, and I know we have to keep moving, but it will be something that I will keep in my heart, as well as Wallace and Ladmo. Watching the Wallace and Ladmo show, it's a part that will have a special place in my heart forever. So that is a place. Another place, as I mentioned earlier, was the University Theaters, because I spent so many weekends there, going to see the movies there and meeting my friends there. We started in junior high and we went all the way through college going to the theater. So another place I enjoyed. House of Tricks. It broke my heart because we actually went there for prom. My prom was at Tempe Missions. We went right around the corner to House of Tricks. So it is, when I say it's dear to my heart, it's dear to my heart. As I said, I know Tempe, we're as you grow, but these are places that are staples in our community and will always be a part of it. So I just want to say thank you to the people who own it and all the memories they gave us as growing up.
Yeah, did you see there was a post recently about, it was a rumor, that Chuck Box was leaving.
Yeah,
I'm sure, but it's
gosh.
not true.
No, I'm so happy to hear that, because that was ASU.
Yeah.
Everybody ate at Chuck Box
Yeah.
at ASU. Yes.
Still a favorite of so
Yes,
many.
it is.
They cleared up that rumor. They're not
Yes,
going
I'm so
anywhere.
happy to hear that.
I think that's true. A lot of people are very happy to hear that.
Yes.
But with, like you said, changes happen, development happens, and do you have any other special memories or specific stories about living in Tempe or growing up in Tempe, working in Tempe, going to ASU? I
have a really interesting story. And it'll tie you back to why I actually ran for office. This is an interesting one. This is not exactly just Tempe, but it's really encompassed Tempe. So as in Tempe High School, I was in BSU, And with BSU is Black Student Union. I ran for state office. So I became the president, one of the first Tempeans to become president of the statewide Black Student Union. So I was lucky to do that. But with that encompass, it gave me a chance to, it was the time when we were fighting for the holiday, the MLK holiday, and it was, we were at a breakfast. And at the breakfast, because this was when it was in the height of it, that we had some dignitaries come. And one of the dignitaries was Coretta Scott King. She sat at the head of the table. And 4 to her right was Miss Rosa Parks. And then 2 from Miss Rosa Parks was Miss Maya Angelou. And right next to Miss Maya Angelou was a 16-year-old Berdetta.
Wow.
So to tell you that to sit in a room with this powerful women, even now, it's just now incorporating what I really was, what I've seen when I was there. But I happened to, we were eating breakfast, and I happened to, Miss Rosa Parks, she's sitting there, she's cutting her food, and she turns and she looks at me in her Rosa Parks, not the same Miss Rosa Parks, Miss Maya Angelou, I apologize. So sitting there, she's eating, and with her and Miss Maya Angelou's voice, she looks at me, she goes, "So what do you want to do with your life?" And at that moment, it took all the air out of me. Something that I started stuttering, like, I want to go to college. I started just splattering off stuff. And she grabbed my hand and she steadied it. And she goes, "I'm going to tell you something. A woman will always know how to get a job. That's kind of natural. But the woman who knows why will end up being the other woman's boss. Never do anything without the why in life." And fast forward, when I started running for office, I took that why with me. I always wanted to know the why I wanted to do it. And that's something that, if I can tie it back to Tempe, if I didn't have the people who believed in me in my high school, in my city, I wouldn't have became the president of BSU. I wouldn't have never met her. So it just tells you that everything that happens for a reason. That's why I'm on the school board, because I realized that someone gave me my chance. Now it's time for me to give back, and why it's so important for me to run for city council, because I want to be that bridge between education and the city.
Let's talk about you running for school board. The first time you ran, and this is Tempe Union High School District.
Yes, Tempe Union High School District.
And so the first time you ran was in what year?
In 2014, and I totally lost by 763 votes, and it was devastating. It was a devastating loss. People say when it's close, it's easier. No, it's not. It's not easy. It was a really hard loss, and I was not going to run again. It was not the best campaign. I was hurt, brokenhearted. I went to one of my schools, and one of my students was there, and she said, they had invited me because I had been the BSU president. I was at a BSU meeting, and she said, "Ms. Hodge, are you going to run again?" And I said, "I don't know. It was just hard. I don't know if I have it in me to do it again." And she goes, "Well, you are our Michelle Obama, because you're the closest one we have. We don't have that connection. We need you to do it because we don't see it done on our level any." So at that point, it made me realize that it was just not about what I wanted. It's what I need to open the doors.
And to put some context, there had never been a Black woman on the
I'll give you even more context. There was never been. I was the first African, when I won in 2016, and when I ran again, I was the first African American woman to win. I was the first African American in Albuquerque, the first African American woman to win on the school board, the first African American on the school board, the first African American person to win in Chandler, and in Tempe as an African American woman. So I opened the door in school board. People think it's in city council, but it was in school board where I opened the door. Tempe never had an African American woman before until I won, and I'm the very first. Now I'll be the first to sit on council, but I still say there's no other victory sweeter than in 2016, because that was the first that I actually opened the door, and an African American woman was elected in the city.
And then you won again
In
in
2020.
Tempe Union.
In
Yeah, you
2020.
ran again.
I did.
And you served as president.
I
of the
served as
school board.
president twice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I ran it. And in the hardest year ever, Michelle. I will never, it was I was president in 2019, and then I became president again in 2020. And because only reason why I became, because they didn't want to bring another person in when we were in the height of COVID. So I literally sat in office in 2020 when it was it was a very hard time for school boards and education, because there was no win no matter what you did. It was a really hard time, but it made me a stronger person. They always say what doesn't break you will always make you stronger, and I think it made me stronger as a person. It made me realize my biasness towards, if it wasn't my opinion, that it made me open my eyes to things that I didn't see before. It just made me a better leader. So you have to look at COVID as, and the time with the pandemic, is if you learn something out of it, that's the best part, is you're not going to be able to take away the sad, the sorrow, whatever, but take the time to learn. And I took the time to learn and understand different opinions that I didn't see before, and that really helped me out. So.
And for the students, the schools,
Mm-hmm.
the community at large, to have elected leaders that are willing to not only step up and run and serve, but also to listen to the community,
Mm-hmm.
especially to navigate times that were really unprecedented. I know that word has been used and overused, but it's accurate. So thank you for that. But as you served on the Tempe Union School Board, do you have any stories or maybe points of pride? I know that you're very engaged in the community, and people can call you and contact you, and you will listen. But do you have some stories of either schools that have been impacted, or students, or something, maybe that policy that you passed?
I'll go into what impacted me the most. While I was on the school board, we lost a student to suicide, and it was one of the hardest things. When you get on a new board, it's no matter what it's the hardest thing to actually go through. But what helped me was the biggest impact is not what happened, is how people reacted, and how my students themselves stepped up to the plate. And not only did they gather around and put a big hug around their community, they gathered around, put a big hug around the adults. Because for some reason, because it happened on our campus, was a very hard one for the adults, as well as it was for the students. But the students, they stepped up. They became the leaders of the school for a little bit to help the adults cope with it. And that's right there told me that adaptability and resilience is something that is instilled in our youth, that it just makes my heart feel so proud to see that, and see that they said, this is what we need. From this, we're gonna learn. We're gonna start putting social emotional first. And that we've had, ever since that day, we've had more students get involved in our social emotional part of our district. They wanted to be a major part of what's happening. And I will say that is one of the best feelings that you can ever have, is to see that happen, is to see our students become the adults, that we always knew they were gonna be.
What was there something specific that inspired you originally to run for school board, and then we'll move into running for Tempe City Council?
Yeah, well, what inspired me most is because I've always been a part of my schools, my son's schools. This is the part I've always been in. Either I've been the president of boosters or PTA. I've been just a major part. I've sit on so many different committees. And one time I was sitting there and I was talking about policy, and Michelle Hirsch, I love her to death, she's my second mom. She came to me, she goes, have you ever thought about maybe running for school board? You are a major part of our committees, take it to the next level. And just sat down with the superintendent, and it just felt right to do it. It felt like it was the next step for me, because education was so important, and not just my kids' education, because I actually wasn't worried about my kids. I kind of knew what direction they were going in. I started noticing it when I was noticing my son's friends, and where they weren't going and what they needed, and I wanted to be that voice. So that's how I ended up running for school board.
Oh, that's wonderful that Michelle Helm was a long time serving.
Oh, yes, she was. Yes.
On Tempe Union.
Yes.
And a great
I just have to add one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. So, and she told me to reach out to she gave me a list of people, and I met one lady who was on Kyrene at the time, was a phenomenal person who came out and was has been a role model for me and always been a voice. And just love you, because you came out and you supported me from day one when you didn't know anything about me. You had a great conversation. You said, I can read into people's hearts, and you had it. So I just want to thank you, and I never forgot that you were one of my first supporters.
Well, it doesn't take long to talk with you to realize that you have a heart of service. You care so much about the students, and when I asked to meet with you, you met with me. I wanted to see, who is this person running? That's what I usually do. And so it's very evident in talking with you how much you care. So then, after serving a couple of terms on Tempe Union, you set your sights to Tempe City Council, and that's just the most recent campaign.
That's the recent campaign.
And no spoiler alert, but you won.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to run for Tempe City Council and the campaign, and what you're looking forward to with that? Yeah.
Sure will. What inspired me the most is because I sit on a couple of committees through the city, and I started to realize that the gap, Robin was feeling it, but it's not, it just, we need that person who is right there in the education community that can speak to the city for things we need, partnerships we have. So it made me start to realize, I thought about it because I had always thought I wanted to run for city council, and I thought, well, maybe when I'm done with school board I would do it afterwards. But then I said, why? No. If you want to be that voice, you want to be that advocate, you got to be at the table, and you just can't be at one table at a time. You got to be able to bring those tables together, and that's what I want to do, is bridge that gap between the education and the schools, because there is partnerships, but we can do so much more, and we can understand each other more. And just actually getting my feet wet in city council, realizing the policies and the budgets and everything, is making me understand, and I can take that back, and I take it right back to my schools and say, this is the reason why they do this, or this is what we have to do, to help out, and let's get somebody on this committee so they can understand what Tempe Union needs, or what Tempe L needs, or what Kyrene needs. So I want to be that bridge, and with me being 2.5 more years left on school board, I think I can do a great job of being that education bridge between the two.
And obviously the voters agree with you because you won. When will you get sworn in to serve on Tempe City Council?
July 1st.
July 1st. Does faith or spirituality play a role in your life?
It does.
Can you share with us a little bit?
I sure can.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell anybody, I do not push their faith. I will not push faith on anyone else, but faith is what brings me through every day. I just believe in life. You need something or somebody to believe in other than yourself, and it just brings me through. So I am a very believer in faith, that I think that it helps me, it guides my hand. So
Awesome.
Yes.
Have attitudes towards cultural diversity changed in Tempe over the years that you've grown up and lived and worked and raised your boys, and in what ways has it impacted you?
It has changed. It has changed so much over the years that I know the history of Tempe. Tempe was a sundown city, and when I was here in the 80s, it wasn't a high population of African Americans. living in the city or working in the city. But now I see, as an adult, I see how Tempe tries to work to rectify that, to try to change that. They brought in a diversity coordinator. They have made sure that it's encompassed. They actually even have different committees that's geared towards different diversities parts of the city. It's just, I've seen the work that they have done, and when they know that they're lacking or they're not some part, they try to reach out actively to find a way to bring it up. So I am very proud to say that Tempe, no matter where we're at, we're always striving to be better, and we want our community to feel like it's a community. So I see the difference.
Are there some specific things that you would like your family and friends to remember about you?
My family and friends, I want my favorite quote in the world is, your fingertips never fade from the lives you touch. I want to be able to touch lives. In my younger life, I always thought that I was invisible, and realize now that not only am I not invisible, that I can make sure that someone else shines as bright as I do. So that's why I think that education is so important to me, because it's always about the next generation. And what are you going to leave? What footprint, what handprint are you going to leave on the next generation's life? So that's what I want people to remember me by.
And just like the student from the Black Student Union that you were talking with, you have been able to inspire students, throughout the district. So your fingerprints have impacted so many students. Is there anything else related to your life in Tempe, growing up in Tempe, your work, your new position on council, or anything that we haven't asked you that you would like to share, whether it's a story or something important to you, or just a fun memory about Tempe, or anything that we'd like to give you the chance to say something that maybe I didn't ask you about.
Well, I think that one of the memories that I maybe didn't appreciate when I was in school is that Tempe High School is the second longest running school in the state. And the history that it encompassed, it'll take a lifetime for you to go through it. And just to feel that I'll be a part of that history for the rest of my life is something that I need to look forward to. One thing you guys don't know is that in Tempe High School, you look in the gym, I have my record still there. No one has beat me in my track record, so it's still in the front row at Tempe High School for track. So wow. I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to say that.
Great.
So what I say is the fact that I have loved this city, and now I know how much this city loves me back, is what I will leave you guys with. It's mutual love between the two.
Oh, that's wonderful. We do like to open it up and ask if anyone else has any questions.
I do have a couple. First, I want to say what an emotional experience it is listening to you. Oh, my word. This is Dwayne Roan asking the question. Earlier, you talked about why, answering the question why we're doing things. And if someone is considering running for office, whether it be school board or city council or something else, how should they answer that question, why, before they decide to run?
You ask yourself this why. Why are you deciding to run? And the second part of that question is, are you going to leave it in a better place than where it started, where you come on? And if you can't answer that question, that you think that you were not going to leave it in a better place, then maybe it's not for time for you to run. I always believe that. I think that the why will help you in a lot of parts of your life. Why do you want to go to college? Why do you want to go into this field? Why do you want to get married? Why do you want to have children? I think it is important to ask yourselves those questions, because people sometimes do it blindly, and they sometimes can regret it. But if you think about that and what she said, it just makes you think, what you want to do with your life. It's your life to live, and no one can tell you what to do. You just have to take it in your own hands and make it yours. And one thing I tell my students is, life is like a book, and there's pages is each year of your life, or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes it looks like that page is forever and it's the hardest page to write. But you know what? If you live another day, you're going to turn that page. So continue to keep writing and turning those pages. And that's what I think that why comes into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick curiosity question. So what event do you hold the record in still?
The 100 hurdles.
Ah.
110 hurdles,
I
yes.
was thinking that one.
Yeah, I was a hurdler.
Hurdles are sprinting.
Yes, I was a sprinter too. I was both, but yes, I was excited. Funny story is I had a person, she was in Tucson Amphitheater, and we were neck and neck, and we were gonna see each other at state. And I built myself up. I was excited, and I was like, I'm gonna get her. This is us. And Tempe, my whole Buffalo, we were all pumped up. Went out there, and maybe you should think about, that's right, maybe that why came in at that time. Maybe I should ask that why then, because she beat me. She knew the why, I didn't. So yeah, that's my story.
Deb.
Thank you very much. This has been so inspirational. I go back to your father feeling that it seemed to be very important to both father and mother that you have a very good foundation for raising their kids, and at a sacrifice of that family being split, but for the sake of the foundation of the family. And I suspect that as you started your family, that you had very mindful decisions about how you wanted to provide the foundation for your family. Could you give us some sense of what gave you the vision of what you wanted to provide for your kids, your two sons?
Well, I knew one thing, that I wasn't going to leave the city of Tempe to do it. That's how much I love the city. And second, I always wanted my kids I wanted to make sure that whatever they did in life, they were better than me. Everything. I want to be able to say that they can stand on my shoulders and be taller. So that's one of my foundations. Another thing you'll see that if you hear, both of my boys went to either New York or DC. They couldn't go to the school in the West Coast. I told them, I said, you live in the West your whole entire life, you have to go to the East Coast. I don't care what part of the East. It could be Southeast, Northeast, it could be middle. You had to go to the East Coast to actually go to school, because I think it gives you a chance to that enrichment to learn. And if you want to come back, you come back. But they both did. So that tells you that even though they love New York, they love DC, they still found their home back in Tempe. So just wanted them to, as I said, I want to be able to, as I think as parents, we want our kids to be in a better place than we were. So that was my strongest part of my foundation for them.
I don't actually have a question. Thank you so much for your service. It's been really great to hear your stories and to see you out around more. Well, I know you're always out around more at city events, but I guess I've been out around more, so to see you at the Care Fair, with the Resources Day, and I think at the TCAA vicinity fundraiser. Those are great events, the nonprofits that serve our communities.
Yes. I love it. And you know what, you're going to see me at everything, because that's one thing I love to do, is I love to be out. Because I always feel that if you're going to be a public servant, you have to be in the public. You know, they got to be able to see you and not sitting on a dais. They should be able to see you where we live. That's why we live in our communities. So that's why I feel it's important for me to be at community events.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you again so much, Berdetta.
Thank you.
Guys, that was fun.